2 Samuel chapter 10. Aram vanquished. It came about after this that the king of the children of Ammon died, and his son Hanun reigned in his place. Then David thought, let me show kindness to Hanun, son of Nahash, just as his father showed kindness to me. So David sent word by the hand of his servants to comfort him concerning his father. But when David's servants arrived at the land of the children of Ammon, the princes of the children of Ammon said to Hanun, their lord, do you think that David is really honoring your father because he has sent consolers to you? Has not David sent his servants to you in order to explore the city, to spy it out, to overthrow it? So Hanun seized David's servants, shaved off one side of their beards, cut off their garments in the middle at their buttocks, and sent them away. When they informed David, he sent word to meet them, for the men were greatly humiliated. The king said, stay in Jericho until your beards grow, then return. Now when the children of Ammon saw that they had become a stench to David, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Arameans of Beth-Rahab and out of the Arameans of Zobah 20,000 foot soldiers, and the king of Maacah with 1,000 men plus 12,000 men from Tob. When David heard about it, he sent Joab and the whole army, the mighty warriors. The children of Ammon came out and lined up in a battle array at the entrance of the gate, while the Arameans of Zobah and Rehob and the men of Tob and Maacah were by themselves in the field. When Joab saw that there was a battle line against him, front and rear, he chose of all the best troops of Israel and arrayed them against the Arameans. But the rest of the troops he committed to the command of his brother Abishai, and he arrayed them against the children of Ammon. Then he said, if the Arameans are too strong for me, then you will help me, but if the children of Ammon are too strong for you, then I will come to help you. Chazak, and let us take courage for the sake of our people and for the cities of our God, and may Adonai do what is good in his eyes. So Joab and the troops with him advanced to battle against the Arameans, and fled before him. When the children of Ammon saw that the Arameans had fled, they likewise fled before Abishai and withdrew into the city. Then Joab returned from assaulting the children of Ammon and went to Jerusalem. When the Arameans saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they regrouped. Hadadezer sent word and brought out the Arameans from across the river, and they came to Helam, with Hadadezer's army, commander Shobach before them. When David was told, he gathered all Israel together, crossed the Jordan, and went to Helam. The Edomians arrayed their lines against David and fought him, but the Edomians fled before Israel. David killed 700 charioteers of the Edomians and 40,000 horsemen, and struck down Shobach, the commander of their army, so he died there. When the vassal kings of Hadadezer saw what they had been defeated by Israel, they made peace with Israel and became servants to them. And the Edomians were afraid to help the children of Ammon any more. 2 Samuel chapter 11. David commits adultery and murder. Now it came to pass at the turn of the year, at the time when the kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his officials with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David stayed in Jerusalem. One evening David rose from his bed and strolled on the roof of the royal palace. Then from the roof he saw a woman washing, a very beautiful woman. So David sent someone to inquire about the woman, and he reported, isn't that Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? Then David sent messengers and took her when she came to him, and he lay with her. She had purified herself from her uncleanness. Then she returned to her house. The woman conceived and sent word to David, saying, I'm pregnant. So David sent a message to Joab, send me Uriah the Hittite. So Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked him how Joab was, how the troops fared, and how the war was going. Then David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. When Uriah left the royal palace, a present from the king followed him. But Uriah slept at the door of the royal palace with all his master's servants and did not go down to his house. When they informed David, saying, Uriah did not go down to his house, David said to Uriah, haven't you come from a journey? Why didn't you go down to your house? But Uriah answered, the ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my lord Joab and the officers of my lord are camping in the open field. Should I then go to my house to eat and drink and lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing. Then David said to Uriah, stay here today also, and tomorrow I will send you off. So Uriah stayed in Jerusalem that day. The next day David called him, and he ate and drank before him, and he made him drunk. But in the evening he went out to lie on his bed with his master's servants, but he did not go down to his house. So in the morning David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by Uriah's hand. In the letter he wrote, put Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle and withdraw from him, so that he may be struck down and die. So it came to pass, when Joab was besieging the city, that he assigned Uriah to the place where he knew that all the valiant men were. And the men of the city came out and attacked Joab, and some of the troops of David's officers fell, and Uriah the Hittite also died. When Joab sent and reported to David all the events of the war, he charged the messenger, saying, "When you finish reporting all the events of the war to the king, if it happens that the king's wrath flares up and he says to you, 'Why did you come so close to the city to fight? Didn't you know that what they would shoot from the wall? Who killed Abimelech, son of Jerubbesheth? Didn't a woman throw an upper millstone on him from the wall so that he died at the Bez? Why did you come so close to the wall?' Then you will say, 'Your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead too.'" So the messenger went and came and told David all that Joab sent him to report. The messenger said to David, "If the men prevailed against us and came out against us in the open fields, but we drove them back as far as the entrance of the gate. Then the archers shot at your troops from the wall, and some of the king's officers fell dead, and your servant Uriah the Hittite died too." And David said to the messenger, "Thus you shall say to Joab, 'Don't let this matter upset you, for the sword devours one as well as another. Press your attack against the city and overthrow it.' So tell him, Chazak." Now when the wife of Uriah heard that her husband Uriah had died, she mourned over her husband. When the time of mourning was over, David sent someone who brought her to his palace. So she became his wife and bore him a son, but the thing David had done was evil in Adonai's eyes. 2 Samuel chapter 12. Nathan confronts David. Then Adonai sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said to him, "There were 2 men in the same city, one was rich, the other poor. The rich man had an exceedingly huge flock and herd, but the poor man had nothing at all except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished, and it grew up together with him and his children. It ate from its own morsel and drank from his own cup, and nestled in his bosom, and it was to him like a daughter. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but he was unwilling to take one from his own flock or herd to prepare a meal for the wayfarer who had come to please him. Rather he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man that had come to him. Then David's anger blazed hot against the man, and he said to Nathan, 'As Adonai lives, the man that did this deserves to die. So he must make restitution for the lamb foretold, because he did such a thing and showed no pity.' Then Nathan said to David, 'You are the man. Thus says Adonai, God of Israel, it is I who anointed you king over Israel, and it is I who delivered you from the hand of Saul. I also gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom, and I gave you the house of Israel and of Judah. Now if that were too little, then I would have added to you so much more. Why then have you despised the word of Adonai by doing such evil in my eyes? Uriah the Hittite you have struck down with the sword, and his wife you have taken to be your wife, and him you have slain with the sword of the children of Ammon. So now the sword will never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and you have taken the wife Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus says Adonai, behold, I am going to raise up evil against you from your own household, and I will take your wives before your eyes, and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in the sight of the sun. Indeed, you have done it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and under the sun.' Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against Adonai. Nathan replied to David, Adonai also has made your sins pass away. You will not die. However, because by this deed you have made the enemies of Adonai greatly blaspheme, so even the child born to you will surely die. Then Nathan went to his house. Then Adonai struck down the child that Uriah's wife bore to David, and he became very sick. David therefore sought God for the child, and David fasted, and went in and lay all night on the floor. The elders of his household stood beside him in order to get him up from the floor, but he was unwilling and would not eat food with them. Then it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. But David's servants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they thought, Behold, while the child was still alive, we spoke to him, and he didn't listen to our voice, so how can we tell him that the child is dead? He might do something terrible. But when David saw that his servants were whispering together, David perceived that the child was dead. So David asked his servants, Is the child dead? He is dead, they said. Then David got up from the floor, washed and anointed himself, and changed his clothes. Then he went to the house of Adonai and worshipped. When he came back to his own palace, he asked for food, so they set food before him, and he ate. His servants asked him, What is this thing that you have done? You fasted and wept while the child was still alive, but as soon as the child died, you got up and ate food. He replied, While the child was yet still alive, I fasted and wept, for I thought, Who knows? Adonai might be gracious to me and let the child live. But now that he has died, why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? It is I who will be going to him, but he will never return to me. Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba. He went to her and lay with her, and she bore a son and called him Solomon. Adonai loved him, and he sent word by the hand of the prophet Nathan. So he called his name Jedediah, for Adonai's sake. Now Joab attacked Rabbah of the children of Ammon and capture the royal city. So Joab sent messengers to David and said, I have attacked Rabbah and captured the city's water supply. So now gather the rest of the troops together, camp against the city, and capture it. Otherwise, I will capture the city myself, and it will be named after me. So David gathered all the troops, went to Rabbah, attacked it, and captured it. Then he took the crown of their king from off his head. Its weight was a talent of gold, and in it was a precious stone. And then it was placed on David's head. He also brought a vast amount of spoils out of the city. Then he brought out to the people who were there and put them to work under saws, iron threshing boards, and iron axes, and assigned them to brickmaking. And thus he did to all the cities of the children of Ammon. Then David and the troops returned to Jerusalem.